I think the chances of a Tory infighting ending are zero. No matter who is going to be the next leader of the Conservative Party, there are 6 contenders. They'll go down to 4 in a couple of weeks' time. I think that probably Priti Patel will fall out, and also poor old Mel Stride, who is a good candidate, excellent media performer, but the joke going around Westminster is Mel Stride, never heard of her. I'm afraid, it's a bit cruel. But yes, look, I think both Jenrick and Tugendhat are strong contenders. Jenrick probably more than Tugendhat. We'll see what happens, but certainly ending Tory infighting not going to happen anytime soon.
Lovely to have you with us, Latika, and also with us, talk presenter and former Conservative Special Advisor Peter Cardwell. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Hello.
No delay, he's in the studio, so it's fine.
There he is. There he is. Hi, Peter.
Hello.
And Latika, good morning to you both. This morning we're going to discuss what direction the Conservative leadership contest is heading in. There are many, many weeks of this thing to run. Tom Tugendhat's been interviewed in the Sunday Times today. Robert Jenrick's been setting out plans on how a future Tory party should come together.
And we're going to reflect on what could be the beginning of the end for higher education. I think that's slightly dramatic. I don't think it's literally going to be the beginning of the end. I think that for some universities, it's going to be a challenge. The Sunday Times has been speaking to the head of the university's watchdog, saying that the funding crisis means the golden age of universities is over. We're also going to chat about the pay rise given to train drivers and get Latika's and Peter's top flying tips.
I'm looking forward to that. That has very much been the conversation of the morning, believe it or not. You can also join in. You can WhatsApp us. The number is 0333 003 2353. You can text 87222 and start your message with the word Times, or you can email studio@times.radio. So Tom Tugendhat is promising in the Sunday Times today to end Tory infighting. And Robert Jenrick has put forward 10 principles to save the Tory party. But are they both genuinely contenders based on these policies? Peter Cardwell. End Tory infighting. I wish somebody had that idea before.
Yes, wouldn't it have been great if someone had come up with that one before? If you just say that you want to do something, it'll definitely happen. I think the chances of a Tory infighting ending are zero. No matter who is going to be the next leader of the Conservative Party, there are 6 contenders. They'll go down to 4 in a couple of weeks' time. I think that probably Priti Patel will fall out, and also poor old Mel Stride, who is a good candidate, excellent media performer, but the joke going around Westminster is Mel Stride, never heard of her. I'm afraid, it's a bit cruel. But yes, look, I think both Jenrick and Tugendhat are strong contenders. Jenrick probably more than Tugendhat. We'll see what happens, but certainly ending Tory infighting not going to happen anytime soon.
Well, this is the thing, and I sort of even the fact there are 6 candidates, 6 contenders, I think is fascinating. The fact there is a long process to run before a result is announced on I believe the 2nd of November as things stand. Although it's bubbling, isn't there?
It's interesting because Harry Cole this week was talking about people who thought, well, actually, hold on, that's a couple of days before the American election, and of course all the focus will be on America, so shouldn't it be a bit sooner? Also, literally a few days beforehand, you've got the budget, and unusually in parliamentary procedure, it's the leader of the it's the leader of the opposition rather than the shadow chancellor who responds to the budget. So should it be Rishi Sunak, who it will be as things stand, or should it be the new leader? Although if they're the new leader, it might be someone with no background in economics. You know, it's one of the toughest possible things that you can do as leader of the opposition is respond to a budget you haven't seen, you haven't been given advance notice of it. You're sitting there scribbling remarks, and you've got to make a very very, very good speech in Parliament, which everybody's watching, guaranteed coverage, and so on. So Rishi Sunak would be obviously very well qualified to do that as a former chancellor. But I spoke to a member of the 1922 committee executive on this. That's the body that is in charge of the election, and he told me that actually it's probably a bit soon, and also it's a big thing to do, and actually it's set in stone at the moment, so it's unlikely to change.
Okay, noted. Let's bring Latika in. Latika, we're talking here about whether, any candidate, frankly, can unite the Conservative Party, which is notoriously, infamously divided as of the last few years, and whether this is a time where that will actually be possible, as Tom Tugendhat hopes.
Well, I think it has to be, because they either unite or die. I mean, they didn't just record their worst ever results for no reason. They did that because they were so divided and such a hopeless rabble to the public, and they were not giving the public the solutions they desperately need. Mind you, neither necessarily is Labor. And this government is going to squeak through the bulk of this year, as Peter Cardwell was just pointing out, without any real close scrutiny. And that gives them enormous license to junk a lot of the things that they said they would or wouldn't do during the campaign. And let's be honest, it was a very thin agenda that they ran with. So the need for scrutiny is huge. And I don't think the Conservatives, if they start to, or if they continue the infighting they've had, will have much time to waste, because we are then looking at 4 years left. That's essentially a year off that they've given the Labor Party. And I do think they need to hit the ground running. A very good example of this is the extraordinary turnaround in Australia in the centre-right party there, the Liberals. They are now competing neck and neck in the polls. And that's something that this time in the last election, just like the Tories in the UK, no one would have thought of, because they'd been decimated to their worst ever historical result. So there's a lot of reason for the Conservatives to think and believe that if they get their act together, they can actually be competitive and somewhat passable by the next election. But to do that, it's not just the leaders' job, it's all of their job.
Yeah, the fact it's all of their jobs, and that is nothing new as well for the Conservative Party. They've been so aware of exactly what, Latika, you're saying there, unite or die. In fact, Rishi Sunak said that on a number of occasions, didn't he, when he was Prime Minister?
That's right.
We actually have to choose these things. What about Robert Jenrick's 10 propositions? 10 is a lot, by the way, but just in terms of political messaging, it's only like 3 or maybe 5 at the most, but there are 10.
He's got a lot to do.
He's got a lot to do, it would seem. Should I read all 10? I'm not sure. Some of them.
Give us the top 3.
Right, okay.
Go on.
Are they in order, though? That's the difficulty.
That's it.
The nation state is fundamental. Our people and
The nation state is fundamental.
Yeah.
Who's arguing against that?
It's the most successful vehicle for peace and prosperity ever created. Don't you know?
Who's arguing against the nation state?
know.
Who are these people?
Our people in Parliament are sovereign. Sure. Market economics drive growth. The NHS is a public service. We must make it deliver. Mass migration must end. We need a small state that works, not a big state that fails. We're a national party serving the whole country. By the way, he does add more detail in these. These are just the headlines. Prison works. Promote national unity, and peace comes through strength.
It kind of reminds me a bit.
Latika and Peter are your favourite Sunday morning guests.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of Michael Howard in 2005, where he had these in the 2005 election, or was it? Yeah, it was the 2005 election, that Michael Howard was the leader of the Conservative Party, and everybody sort of said, right, he's the caretaker leader, he's never going to be Prime Minister. The Conservatives didn't do that badly in 2005, certainly a lot better than they did in 97 and 2001, which was a massive landslide, and it was the first sort of green shoots of the recovery, really, for the Conservatives. And then David Cameron and David Davis sort of fought it out to be the leader, and of course David Cameron became leader and then Prime Minister. But Michael Howard had these sort of two very quick these sort of 2-word phrases like more police and prison works is a sort of Michael Howard phrase originally. So it's simple, I suppose, but I'm not sure there are too many people arguing against the nation state.
Yeah, there is a bit of that, isn't there, I suppose?
I also think it's missing the real issues here. I mean, there's no solution, or there's no path to electoral viability without the Tory party taking head on immigration. That is, I think, the number one issue for both parties, but more critically for the Tory party, because they have reform biting at them from the right, and they've got Labor on the left. Now, I think reform is posing a danger to both the major parties on immigration if it doesn't get sorted. So you have to have a very real and honest conversation about immigration. You have to go to the public and say, look, we promised to stop the boats and it was probably an impossible pledge. So let's have a more realistic conversation about what that means.
Here's the detail from Jenrick, and I'll just sort of, there's a kind of summary at the end of this little paragraph. The only test for immigration policies is whether they benefit the British people. We must become the grammar school of the Western world, admitting those who contribute more than they receive in benefits and services. Latika, that's what he says.
What does the grammar school of the world mean? Sorry.
Yeah. What spotty and awkward.
Does that go over my head just because I'm Australian, or just
no? I mean,
I don't understand that one.
I know what you mean. I think it's about contribution, isn't it? So have you kind of earned your place? I suppose, in Britain, is perhaps what he's getting at. Anyway, there you are. There's a flavour of Robert Jenrick's 10 propositions.